our physician, Dr. Columbus, is going to be talking about the mental health line. We are just pleased to have you here. Thank you very much for joining us tonight. We love your presentations. We love every single one of the trainings that you do. And we are just uh, expecting all you have to teach us tonight. So let us get started. Great. That sounds great. All right, we will wait for the rest of our friends to join us later tonight. I would like to extend my warmest gratitude tonight to say hi and to actually welcome you to this training session. I am pleased and I am honored to be here with you tonight so I can share with you some of the knowledge that I have regarding all of the fusion products, especially in such times where we live in uncertainty times. If it is true that in the United States we are having a clearer scenario on what's going to happen next, it is also true that it is not time to let our guards down, because we have seen in places such as New Zealand or Italy and even Israel how even we have this immunity, this community immunity, we have seen some setbacks on the flexibility laws, on the flexibility new measures that they had undertaken. We've been within this COVID scenario for more than a year and a half, and we have seen many different consequences that are related to our health. We have seen some people that have become sick, and we have also seen some mortality issues that, given some different reasons, they have passed away, and they have unfortunately passed away. But we have also seen another pandemic that we have not paid enough attention to, which has to do with the psychological effects of these pandemics. And yes, if it is true that we need to pay attention to what's happening to our body, it is also true that we need to pay attention to those effects, to those psychological effects that we may have. On the one hand, we may have some effects that are closely related to the disease itself, to COVID, that are short and long term, but it is not necessarily true that these effects are going to disappear once the disease is gone. That's why I would like to share with you some information on how we can deal with the different impacts or the different effects that may remain after recovering from this COVID disease. So we have seen, and now the literature and different research are showing that the different effects may come after. So that may mean even 2 or 3 weeks after you have been released from the hospital, and you may have some, let's say, some setbacks in your health. And here we are going to include the nervous system. So on the one hand, we have the effects on the nervous system, but also we have the side effect on this new reality that we have had to live with all of these lockdowns, with these health restrictions. And as we have seen, and as we are going to see tonight, there are many after effects that we are going to witness, that we have been affected with to a greater or lower extent. Obviously, we are not the same after a year and a half. One person, after being in a lockdown after 3-4 months, has a very strong burden, psychological burden. That's why we are going to work on with some different products tonight. So these products that we have, that we are presenting on the screen, are products that were already developed by the time of the pandemics. And here we work um, with the mental state of the people, of those people who take these products. And these products have evolved, as we are going to see later tonight. So on the right, we have the product that is called OFF, which is especially important for um, which, as you know, means to turn off. So here we have our yin and yang nature. We have on and we also have off. If we, let's say, if we go back to the to our philosophers, we need to think about the green tea. And we know that after water, green tea is one of the drinks that is mostly consumed all over the world. And this drink is going to increase the levels of energy and is going to diminish the fatigue levels. And at the same time, we have the L-theanine, which is a relaxant that is going to generate alpha waves. And some people may wonder how nature has created an energizer together with a tranquilizer in the same leaf. And yes, it is true. This is going to help us to give us a lot of comfort and a lot of energy. So this is going to control pretty much. People say that nature is wise, and it is true. Nature is going to control that we are not going to handle levels of energy, or that we are not going to have levels of energy that we cannot handle. So that's why we have created these couple of products that we have on the screen. The first one that is going to increase the levels of energy, and the second one is going to decrease those levels of stress. We are going to explain that in detail later on, but let me tell you that after many months and after the quarantine, let me tell you the case of Peru. In quarantine or in lockdown, we were not allowed to go out. We were 145 days in lockdown. I know that in the United States, it changed a bit depending on the state where people live, but this, together with the social distancing, um, we know that we're not talking about the social distance anymore, but the physical distance. So if it is true that in the past we used to get together with our partner or with our significant other or our friends and people around us, given the distance that we had to go through during these days, had a negative impact. And of course, this had left us with some after effects. And of course, many different things or many things have changed. For example, our work, many of our, let's say, most of our occupations had to do with traveling, traveling for training, traveling for um, I don't know, traveling for any kind of reason. And it had to do, or it demanded from us a lot of energy. And that demanded from us a lot of motivation and, let's say, this comrade spirit. But it changed. Through, it changed because we now have to communicate through a screen. So if it is true that we have flexibilized all of the biosecurity measures because in some different states in the United States, some people are getting more flexible with these different measures. It is true that work has become virtual and also semi virtual occupations. For example, some people have to go for some days to their office and some other days they stay at home. So the way we work has changed and it may last longer. We don't know how much it is going to last. So it has also affected the way that we interact with, for example, with e-commerce. We have become more used to being online at all times. So now we usually ask for delivery food. Now we have our cell phone at all times in our hands. And also the way we take care of our health has also changed because nowadays we have the virtual the virtual appointment. For example, the doctor is not going to check my health with a stethoscope, or that person, the doctor, is not going to physically evaluate or assess my physical state, but that's going to happen through a screen or through a phone call. Everything has changed. Even nutrition has changed. And you can tell me better if this hasn't changed. We know that given the COVID context, Um, we know that today, more than before, or at least in the last 100 years, people are worried about their health condition. Actually, the last researches that have been developed have found that the main concern for the average adult is their health condition. This pandemic has affected them or has affected us in many different ways to see how this pandemic is going to affect ourselves and the people surrounding us. And if we think about the fact of washing our hands, we can think that this was the first measure that we undertook uh, whenever when we started to talk about this pandemic. This is a concept that was developed actually back uh, 100 years ago, 200 years ago. Actually, we didn't have this biosecurity measure. It actually only appeared 100 years ago. And actually, this custom, this habit of washing our hands have became obsolete back in the day. But now we're thinking about how to disinfect our hands, our shoes, and even our clothes. So we can see how everything has changed and how this change is going to remain in time. So we can see how this new context also means new challenges. So, for instance, the online classes. I remember that, let's say, 6, 7 years ago, when someone talked about, let's say, that they were doing a master's degree, a virtual master's degree, they used to say that it was, let's say, not the best education because it was virtual education. We didn't believe in this kind of education because we thought that in-face education or in-person education was the best education, and we needed to go to those educational institutions. And actually, we used to think that this was very informal, but nowadays, online education is key. Our kids, our children have continued with their education thanks to virtuality. And we as adults have also adapted ourselves. And given the lockdown, most of us have taken advantage to study from home. Why? Because we don't have to go out anymore. And we can actually fill those gaps, let's say those mobility gaps that I used to have, as something that I am now fulfilling with the time that I can take advantage of at home, especially adults. So these people have taken advantage so they can finish their degrees, so they can start actually some master's degrees, or why not some doctorate degrees, some PhD degrees. So this means that we need to, and these new activities actually demand from us more energy. Why? Because there are a lot of distractions around us. For example, if you receive a phone call, or your neighbor is knocking on the door, or people on the street are making noise. And besides, we are not alone at home. Most of us live with a family at home. So you live with your partner, you live with your kids, you live with your dogs, with your pets. So it is not the same being in a classroom in comparison to being at home, actually interacting with your daily life. So there are many temptations that we may have at home. For example, as taking a nap or having a snack. Hopefully it is a healthy snack, but those are situations that we are now facing. So now our work and our education are interacting together or are cohabitating together. And actually, sometimes we may become distracted with, why not, the house chores or the housework. And some of these tasks require our full attention. And all of these different distractions become those stealers of energy, because besides the different activities that I have to do as a student or as a worker, I am also paying attention to some other details. And this is, of course, going to cause some loss of productivity. So I am doing less in those 8 hours that I am supposed to be working. I am going to do less than what I used to do when I was at the office or at my workplace. And on the other hand, there is another challenge that I've heard um, about by many psychologists and many physicians is the lack of physical contact, and especially for children. This is especially true for children because contact for children, the physical contact with children, with other children, is key for for kids. This interaction is very important for them, and we have lost this kind of interaction. And now we know that children are mainly affected at the emotional level because they are no longer interacting with their friends, they are no longer playing their games, which are key for their development. My 8-year-old kid, Salvatore, I remember that when I went to pick him up, I used to see him playing with his friends uh, and his mechanical or on the playground. And at the end, said when they said goodbye, they high-fived or they hug each other, and now they have lost that physical contact. And I have noticed that my son sometimes gets depressed because now, yes, of course, he sees his friends, but through a screen, and it is not the same. They don't get the same emotion as they do when they get as when they are together, and those are some of the things that we are missing from our old normality. So these screens are stealing our energy, are stealing our kids energy. So we have seen that, yes, if it is true that for some people these screens have actually eased productivity, and that's why many companies are going to continue under this mode of work, under this modality. So they are going to have this mix of this presentiality or this in-person work and virtuality work in such way that we are going to alternate the different modes of work or modalities of work. This means that this is a challenge because we need a lot of willpower to stay active, to be active, because this is a new way of working. It is completely different to what we used to have. And on this aspect, I'd like to share some tips with you. First of all, I think we need to be ordered and be disciplined. So I remember that back in the day when I had the chance to meet Mr. Zuniga, he talked about the structure. And yes, I think that structure is one of the key aspects that we should have in mind. This means that should have a schedule for absolutely everything. Even though we're at home, we should wake up at the same time. But some of you would say, but why? Because, for example, some of you would say that you don't have to wake up early in the morning because you wouldn't be driving or you wouldn't be stuck in traffic. But you know what? That time that you're not going to be stuck in traffic, you could do some exercise, you could exercise, or you could study. So that's why it is important to have a schedule and to actually set a routine to perform each one of your daily activities. That's very important because within this new scenario, we may have a lot of freedom and we may forget or we may lose focus. And that's why we move on to the second point. We need to establish routines for working and resting because we know that we're going to be, yes, in the same place all day long. And I remember that at the beginning of this lockdown in Peru, I used to be desperate and we were allowed to go out for an hour. So I used to have a break for 1 hour in order to see something different from my routine. And this was the way that I could do my mental hygiene. And then I would go back to actually to continue doing what I was supposed to do. The next tip that I would like to give you tonight is to have a healthy diet. We're not going to talk about how to lose weight tonight, but it is important that we have a healthy diet. And here it is important to remember how some people have become overweight through this pandemic. For example, some people that used to weigh 60 kilograms are nowadays 66, and that's the average worldwide. So what can we do in order to fight this effect? All we can do is to have a healthy diet. You may have a snack in the mid morning, but it has to have a healthy snack. And actually, that's our success. That's why we're successful, because all of our drinks are healthy. They are low in calories, and that explains why our company has been very successful during this pandemic. It might be, and I apologize in advance if this sounds a bit shocking for some of you, but think about this laboratory, this famous laboratory. A pharmaceutical laboratory told us that produces antibiotics and different drugs said that 60% of their sales, 60% is on vitamins, minerals, and supplements. So this means that we have now a new consumer that is now thinking on how to prevent different health conditions. And that explains why our products have exponentially growth during the last months. It is very important to have a proper body weight, because sometimes we gain weight and we don't even know how. And that has to do with our mobility, because we are now moving less. The next one has to do with the physical activity, and that is very important. We need to have at least 30 minutes of physical activity every day for at least 5 days a week. Let me tell you a personal experience. When we were allowed to go to the supermarket, I preferred to go in on my bike in such way that I could actually exercise, or I would go by walking, or pretty much I would just keep my car in the garage and I would go for a walk. So, and another aspect that is very important is to have an active social life. I know that there are some restrictions in some countries regarding these different social gatherings, but we may use technology. So, for example, on Fridays or Saturdays, we may arrange a meeting with them, for example, with your high school friends, or I don't know, your neighbors, or someone you don't have a very, or someone that you have a close relationship with. You may have a virtual meeting, so you may have a different scenario, so you're not surrounded by the same people over and over. Because yes, of course, you may love your significant other, you may love your kids, your children, your pets, but of course it's good to actually get to hang out with some other people, different people. Another tip that is very important is to listen to music and dance. This is, for example, for when we're doing our housework, cleaning, for example, mopping, making our bed, whatever it is. Dancing is one of the best cardiovascular exercises that we can actually do. Uh, Meditation is also important. And the last but not least is sleeping 8 hours a night. And this is very important, minimum 7 hours. And it is important because one of the side effects that we have seen with this COVID-19 has been has been the affectation to our sleep routines, because now we can actually, let's say, wake up at any time, and sometimes we go to bed very late at night because we don't have to wake up early in the morning. And sometimes this disorder becomes to having less than 8 hours a night, and some people actually go to classes on their PJs, or some people working on their PJs. Some people are actually uh, using or overusing Disney Plus, Netflix, or any other streaming platform, and they are using, or actually they are disrupting this sleep routine. And of course, we need to have 8 hours a night. So here we need to go back to the structure that I mentioned before. And there is another aspect that I would like to mention here, and I would like to apologize to those people not speaking in Spanish, because this was a study that was performed uh, in Spanish. So here we have an a study, a research from the CDC, for the Center of Control Disease, where they discuss all of the different after effects that we have as a result of COVID, that they are not restricted to the respiratory difficulties, but also to the mental difficulties. So let me tell you a bit about what the CDC said on this regard. So it said that pandemics may be stressful, and actually they are, because now we have a parallel pandemic. This pandemic has been called the infodemia. That is pretty much the pandemic of information. Now we were connected, we were over connected, we were watching the news at all times. And of course, they might be a bit alarming. Of course, some of those news are more alarming than some others. And of course, we are receiving a lot of information at all times that has affected our mental status, because of course, we are worried and concerned about our own health condition and about our family's health condition. And that is why this was called infodemia. So this says that stress under this kind of pandemics or different um, scenarios, we might be afraid for our own physical condition and our family physical condition. There are also some stress related to the work stability. So this has to do with the things that we mentioned before. So the first concern that we have on our mind has to do with our physical condition. That's the first concern, which is something very common at the moment. And not only because of the health condition, but also the effects on the economy of our countries, on our specific work conditions, or the loss of services, because there are some figures, because we know that at some point we are going to get to know what the exact figures are as a result of this pandemic. At the moment, yes, we are worried about getting immunity, but we know that in the future we are going to get to know how many people suffering from diabetes didn't pass away because of the pandemic, but because of the lack of treatment, or because they didn't receive the attention they needed at the time, because of the comorbidity they have before the pandemics. And these are things that we are going to evaluate in the future. Another aspect that it is mentioned here are the changes in the sleep routines or sleep patterns. Because yes, now we are used to binge watch our favorite TV series, and then we go to bed at 2 in the morning, and then we wake up at 8 in the morning. So our sleep pattern starts to change, or has changed. And it is something that we need to avoid at all times, because it is not only the sleep pattern, but also the food pattern or the nutrition patterns that have changed. So we need to have some specific, that's why I said at the beginning that we need to have some structure, and we need to have some routines, some specific time to have breakfast, to have lunch, and have dinner. So we need to establish those specific times in which we are going to eat. For example, breakfast at 7 in the morning, lunch at 1 in the afternoon, and dinner or supper by 5 or 6 in the afternoon or evening. And even more than writing it down on a paper, we need to actually comply with these commitments. It is not just to schedule, but actually to do it. Another thing that is mentioned here is the lack of um, stability when sleeping. Some people have suffered from insomnia, and the chronic disease, and what I have said before, are the increase in those chronic diseases. For example, those patients with diabetes or Alzheimer or cancer, those are the side or the collateral deaths that we are not evaluating at the moment. Another thing that we have here has to do with the mental health condition. For those people that used to have mental health problems, for example, the panic attacks or anxiety or claustrophobic or agoraphobia or some other issues that have become worse within this context. Can you imagine how a claustrophobic person would feel within these lockdowns? I bet that'd be horrible for those people. And the last but not least, the highest consumption of alcohol, drugs, and cigarettes. And actually, the levels of alcoholism worldwide have increased according to some articles that I have read in about 30%. So it means that there are 30% more alcoholic people around the world. And also the use of drugs, given or because of solitude, because of different social aspects. So this drug use has increased, of course. And another impact that has to do with the divorce rates or the separation rates that have also increased. So there are many different side effects that our nervous system has been affected by. That's why we have these two beverages or these two drinks. So that's why we are now promoting these drinks that we already had. These are natural drinks that are going to help us with our health condition. So let's get started with on. This product, of course, is going to get us active. It is going to give us the energy we need to perform the activities that we have to do. It is going to boost our enthusiasm, our energy, our mental energy in order to increase our intellectual activity to its maximum potential. And you know that those people that are working from home, we know that we have a lot of distractors. We have already mentioned this with the different noises from people surrounding us. So we need to be focused at all times. So that's why on this drink on has been specifically designed to be focused. And something that is worth mentioning at this point regarding the composition of this drink has to do with the inclusion of taurine. We need to demystify taurine because taurine is key for the body functioning. And this is an element that has been demonized. And why? Well, it is because of some energy drinks that are not healthy. And they have misused this taurine with different components. And of course, this has caused some side effects on its consumers. And that's why some people have satanized or demonized taurine. So to get started, taurine is a natural element and it is essential for the development of our body. For example, colostrum, the mother colostrum is rich in taurine because this taurine is key for the brain development of newborns. So this is just common sense. Nature is not going to give us something that is harmful. So if taurine is not harmful to babies, to newborns, it is not going to be harmful to adults. So we can find taurine in colostrum. We know that all of us who have been breastfed, we have already taken some taurine through this breast milk. Let's. Some people say that this colostrum, let's remember that colostrum is not milk itself, but it is a different drink that has taurine among some other components. And we also find taurine in some other foods, such as meat and fish, red meat and fish. And this is, and here it is important to highlight. Let me share a story with you so you can see how far demonization can get with taurine. Once I was in a lecture for an airline staff. They were interested on getting these products, among them on, because you know that people, stewardess and pilots and all the staff working in an airline, they need to be focused and they need to be alert. And some of them said that they didn't want to actually drink this product because it had taurine. So can you imagine? And I don't want to offend anyone here, but can you see how ignorance is there? So does it mean that if you have a piece of meat, you are going to be positive for taurine? Or that if you have a piece of fish, you are going to become positive for taurine? So there is not any test to find out how much taurine you have in your bloodstream, because this is not a drug. This is actually, and it is actually in some vegetables in lower proportions, but it is there. And that's why vegetarians often have deficiencies in this availability of taurine, because they need to compensate this taurine with some other supplements, food supplements. People suffering from diabetes also have a low level of taurine, which is lower than advisable. Exercise and stress, for example, also increase the demand for taurine, because whenever we do exercise, our body is going to request, it is going to demand more taurine. And taurine levels decline with age. So we need to consume this taurine because it is an anti-agent component. So let's check. So as we say, look at all of the different products, look at all of the different foods where we find this taurine. And it is crazy to see how people think that they wouldn't, or they are not allowed to have this taurine, because as I had said before, we can get taurine from the red meat, fish, eggs, milk, and actually some nuts and some grains. There is taurine in each one of these foods at a lower or higher extent, but it is not true that you are going to be tested for taurine. This is the scientific truth for taurine. So that's why I'd like to invite you to check the composition of this product on, where we have taurine, glycine, GABA, or this GABA component, the gamma aminobutyl acid, gamma aminobutyl acid. That's the name of it. That's why we say GABA, glutamine and choline. We have some energizing plant extracts such as mate and the acai berry, and antioxidant plant extras. You know why antioxidants are important? Because there are many free radicals given the stress that we may experience. So that's why it is important to have these antioxidant elements um, in order to have a better brain work or brain functioning. And we also have some minerals such as magnesium, zinc, and iron, which are very important for memory, just like magnesium. And we know that there are many different functions they comply or they are in charge of. And of course, what we care the most about with zinc has to do with the modulating of the defense or the immunitary system. So this is very important for the immunitary system. That's why it is highly recommended to have zinc in our diet. We also have essential fatty acids such as DHA and ARA, which are key in order to produce neurons, and also vitamins for the complex B, B1, B2, B3, B6, and B9. I I like to stop here for a second, and actually you can see how rich these drinks are. And you can see how 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, and 5 vitamins. So here we have 19 active components that are actually focused on giving us more mental energy. We have already mentioned taurine, which is an amino acid that together with vitamin C and yerba mate dissipates the feeling of fatigue and enhances mental work. So taurine is a key component, and there are actually many different books that have been produced on this aspect, on how taurine is not a bad thing for our health. So of course need to have taurine, but we need to be balanced in the way that we receive this taurine. And also iron is important here. The GABA, this acid is very important as well. If you actually check this acid, you can see that this is not an amino acid. Some people say that it's a provitamin, but we're not here to discuss these chemical aspects. But we are going to discuss, but I am going to discuss this GABA acid as an amino acid that is going to help us to have the neurotransmitter communication. So that means the communication among neurons. And it also helps us to have a better synergetic combination. And also we have the B complex vitamins that together with the fatty acids and the mineral and fruit extracts improve antioxidant defense and stimulate functions such as attention and memory. So this means that this combination of natural ingredients means that we have a rich synergic of, as I have said, around 19 natural ingredients to be more focused and to actually dissipate the fatigue feeling. So all of these different ingredients are going to provide me with the stimulation and attention despite the daily distraction. And I can tell you this because of I have had first-hand experience with this. Because of all of the different distractions that we have at home, with this product, I can become focused beyond the day-to-day distractions. Besides that, I can have better neuronal nutrition. This is an antioxidant, and I may have a longer span of attention. So my attention can be there for a longer period of time. And we are going to be in a better alert state. And it is going to optimize the intellectual work, which is actually an achievement today, because actually we have to finish our days. It is very difficult to finish our day being fully concentrated. And it is difficult nowadays, it is difficult for every single one of us. And it is a challenge. We know that this is a challenge. But now, thanks to this drink, we know that we can achieve it thanks to the natural ingredients that we have in drinks such as the one that we have just seen. So this was on, but we also have another situation that is also concerning, which has to do with the distress, with all of the anxiety and all of these levels of stress that are caused by the lockdown and the quarantine that we have been through. Actually, next week, uh, I am going to take a week off because I feel tired. I feel some sort of burnt out because I have worked non-stopping for the last 18 months. So I talked to human resources because I have lost actually track of how much time I have rested. And actually, they told me that I haven't taken any vacations since 2018. So can you believe that? I have not been on holidays for 3 years. You know that, well, in my country, I am allowed to have 30 days a year per vacation, for vacation or for my holidays. And I haven't had any vacations ever since 2018. That's why right now I'm feeling a bit down. Don't worry. I'm gonna, if you have a question, I may answer your question. But yes, I am going to take some time off to actually rest and to actually have some time off. And that's why I'm gonna have this drink with me. Off. Here, this drink is enriched with amino acids, superfruit extracts, B vitamins, and magnesium. And what's best is its flavor, its peach tangerine flavor. So let's check the extraordinary combination that we have here. These synergic ingredients are in this drink. So here we have, if it is true that we have caffeine in our previous drink, here we have the L-theanine that is coming from the green tea that is actually producing, it is going to help us to produce alpha waves. And here we are going to have as well tryptophan, that is very important because it is a precursor of serotonin. It is a neurotransmitter, and it is a booster, it is a biochemical booster that helps our nervous system to relax. So here we have a greater capacity of relaxing thanks to these components. So here we have the L-theanine, the tryptophan, and also the glycine. And all of these um, amino acids are coming as well and are coming together with superfruit extracts coming from the lemon, basil, guava, ashwagandha, and asmalaki. And here I'd like to say that all of these vitamins are coming from natural sources. They are not coming from synthetic formulas, but they come from natural resources. So you can have the best resources that nature has for you. For example, here with glycine, it is an amino acid that can act as an inhibitory neurotransmitter. I don't know if you have been in the situation where, or you have met someone that whenever that person is stressed, they start to have some tick in their eyes, or they have some involuntary movement with their fingers. So glycine helps to revert these kind of movements. So that's why here we have a motor regulating movement, or let's say a motor regulating nature of this specific product. And then we also have the ashwagandha, where that is coming from the from this Indian medicine, and this is going to help us with depression and anxiety, and it is also a sleep inducer, and that's why it is highly valued. And last but not least, amalaki, which is an antioxidant, and it is also an adaptogen. And what is an adaptogen? It is something that helps us to be balanced while being focused, even though we are working under pressure. So you might be working under pressure, but adaptogens such as amalaki help us to work better under those circumstances and actually help us to be balanced. So that's what an adaptogen is. Amalaki is one of the best adaptogens that there is in the market or that we have out there. It helps us to have a better mental performance, a better health and mental clarity. Besides helping us with visual acuity, night vision, and sensitivity, as well as it is going to help us with drug and nicotine detoxification. So just by mentioning three of these ingredients that we have here, that we have just mentioned, are that, as you can see, are plenty and that are coming from natural sources. So what can I get from off? All of these ingredients are going to help me to increase my body's resistance to stress, anxiety, and distress, especially for moments where the humankind is under stress, regardless the reason. Either it is because of economic, health, or society, or for Latin American context, even political context. So you can see how important this product is for the specific moments that we are going through. It is also going to help my brain to be relaxed, focused, and optimistic. So you can see how important it is because we need to be relaxed but focused, because we need to be alert. And it is going to help us to be optimistic. It is going to provide us with a better uh, chemical balance to be optimistic. And that's why it is very important. And this doesn't cause any drowsiness, because some people think that they don't have off because they are going to become drowsy, but it is not true. You can have off and you can operate machinery, you can drive your car, and you can work, because this product doesn't cause drowsiness. But if I take it before going to bed, for example, if I take a shower, I put my PJs on, and then I have my drink, and then I have this drink, of course, I am going to fall asleep faster because this is going to help me relax. Uh, but if I drink it during the day, I am not going to have any issue with the operations that I have to complete or with the different things that I have to do. Of course, this is a very, very rich product, and it also has a very nice flavor. So at what time should I drink these drinks? Well, they do not have a specific schedule, but you can drink it anytime that you may require uh, more attention. For example, I remember that in the old normality, I used to have those days that some days they would have to work late at night. So in those nights, they would drink on just to be focused, just to be there at all times, and just actually to be present while working. For example, in my case, whenever I know that I have a lecture and I am a bit tired because I've been working all day long, I'm gonna drink on before my lecture so I can be focused, and my memory is going to be stimulated so I can talk about all of the different concepts that I like to mention whenever I lecture. And that's why this drink does not have any schedule. And uh, when talking about off, I could drink this, I can drink it anytime. Sometimes if I feel overwhelmed or I feel stressed because of, I don't know, because things are not working out the way they're supposed to, or I'm concerned about anything, I don't know, let's say because of a friend, relative, or kid, I would say that that would be a good moment to have this drink. And of course, if you're having issues to fall asleep at night, you you can also drink off before going to bed. So I take a shower and put my PJs on, and then I am going to have my drink and I am going to sleep sound and well. If you want to, you can take this drink more, or you can have this drink more than once a day. That I think that was it for tonight's presentation. That was all that I had to share with you. And I hope that we can get together soon with any other topic that you would like to share. So, um, with that, I would like to conclude my presentation and I would like to ask you if you have any questions. Wow, actually, Dr. Columbus, that was great. That presentation was just great. I think that this combination is just the perfect mix. Yes, and actually, that's what I said at the beginning. Some people, actually, within the corporate staff, actually, some of you uh, may tell you what they have experienced because these drinks actually activate your mind and also they help you go to sleep. So we have on and off, and there are many testimonies from people that actually used to drink these two products together to have the perfect balance. Yes, actually for me it is the perfect mix because of course you have all of this stress and it is keeping you relaxed, but it is keeping you active as well. And here we have some questions for you. Milena is telling us that she loves off. What kind of product do you recommend for fibromyalgia patients? With Well, at the moment, we haven't talked about fibromyalgia patients. And Milena, thank you very much. Milena, we love you. And now coming back to fibromyalgia, what's the etymology of this word? Fibro comes from fiber, and myo comes from the from the pain. I'm sorry, the pain in the muscles. So here, if we have some pain in our muscles, and it is made up of proteins. So here we need to have some proteins. So the first question that you need to wonder is, or the first question that you need to ask is, are you a sports person? If you are, you need to have a product rich in protein. And the second one is, if you are not, I would recommend fit. But if you are not a sports person, I would recommend the protein, the rich protein product. And as an anabolic process, in order to actually fixate these these proteins better before going to sleep, I would recommend off, because this disease is also characterized given high levels of stress. So that's why I would recommend off. And finally, for the muscle pain, golden flex. I would recommend golden flex, which is an excellent antioxidant. So I would recommend a shake, a protein active fit, or protein active sport. That could be youth elixir, also off, and finally golden flex. So in total, 4 products for these patients. Thank you very much. There is a question by Graciela Gonzalez that is getting here on Zoom. And she's asking us if we can have these drinks warm. Can I have them as hot drinks? Yes, but be careful. They cannot be higher. The water must not be higher than 6 degrees. How can you measure that? If you can put the water on your the cup of your on your cheek, it means that that's the perfect temperature. But of course, you can mix these products in warm water. Mary is telling us that she's absolutely pleased to getting to know these products, but who she's asking us about those people that you are not going to recommend these products. So if someone is older than 15 years old, they can have these drinks without any issue, without any problem. And specifically for on, as we know that this has a bit of caffeine, it is not as convenient for hypertension or high blood pressure patients, but for people who usually drink coffee, they would have, and those people who have coffee and have high blood pressure, they would have a good resistance to this product. And let's say that it would be recommended that people with high blood pressure do not have on. And here we have a testimony from Clark Albert. He's telling us that on has helped us a lot, has helped me a lot as an actor. Whenever I have on and Vita, it helped me to have my protagonist role in a movie. Congratulations.
Qué bien, felicitaciones. Y sí.
Congratulations. And I usually repeat myself on saying this. You are going to find the product that is best for you. That's the way it is. And for example, on together with Vita might work very well. Some people actually mix it up with another one, passion, Vita, and on. Passion, Vita, and on. Actually, that combination is pretty common. And Albert, congratulations. And please keep on doing it. And actually, I think that this combination is what some people call Viton. Thank you very much for your testimony. Thank you. And thank you very much, Dr. Columbus, for being with us tonight. We have learned a lot out of this lecture. And given the situation that we're living in today, we know that it is difficult to focus, to pay attention at all times. And all of this situation is causing us to be stressed. So I think that these products are actually great for all of these different cases. Yes, and actually for the day-to-day routine. And of course, for example, if someone knocks on your door, you need to go there and then you need to come back and actually see where you were before that. So there are a lot of interruptions and a lot of disruptions. And that's why products such as on and off are products that have been very successful because people are telling us how difficult it is to focus and how everything has been mixed up with our daily routines, with our daily lives. All right, Dr. Columbus, thank you very much. Thank you for your time tonight. We hope to see you soon. All of our guests are sending you their best regards. They're sending you their hearts and likes. I bet Erica is there. Erica Palacios, I think she's right there. Yes, I think so. Well, thank you very much. I send you the warmest regards. Erica's one of the people who's actually always asking me questions. So that's why I remember her. And that's why I would like to greet her and her family. And of course, all the people that were together with us. Thank you very much. Thank you. Thank you very much. See you around. I think next week we're going to see each other. I'm not sure when that is. But don't worry. All right. Thank you very much. Thank you, Fusioners, for joining us tonight. And see you next time. We'll let you know what the next date for our next training is. Thank you very much. Have a very good night. Bye-bye.